The story begins in June 2014, when a family of 5, Derek and Maria Broaddus, and their 3 children were preparing to move into their new home. The Broaddus family had purchased a house at 657 Boulevard in the town of Westfield, New Jersey. The house had 6 bedrooms, 4 bathrooms, and was nearly 4,000 square feet, valued at up to $1.3 million, not to mention the amount of money the family spent on repairs and renovations. The reason the Broaddus family gave for buying the house was that Maria was born and raised in the neighborhood, and the house where she spent much of her childhood was only a few blocks away. Moreover, Westfield was considered a very safe area with low crime rates and a high standard of living. Because of these reasons, the Broaddus family considered 657 Boulevard their dream home. It seemed like the family would move in and live in the house as they had wished. But just 3 days after completing the purchase, a letter was sent to the address of the house. There was no return address or name on the envelope. Only a single line read, "To the new owners." The letter inside the envelope was entirely typed and had a very puzzling content. Although the introduction sounded like an anonymous neighbor wanting to welcome the Broaddus family to their new home, the more they read, the more confusing the letter became. Not only did it use strange language, but the anonymous author also clearly indicated that they had been watching the Broaddus family for some time. The following contents of the letter confirmed this. When talking about themselves, the author continued to use ambiguous language. At the end of the letter, there was only a typed signature under the name, The Watcher. When Derek read the letter, he was sitting at 657 Boulevard. It was already 10 p.m. He immediately turned off all the lights in the house, fearing someone was watching him, and returned to the family's old house. That night, the Broadduses emailed the previous owners, John and Andrea Woods, to ask about the Watcher because of a line in the letter. After a sleepless night, Derek received a reply email the next morning. In the email, Andrea said that a few days after moving out, they also received a similar letter to the one Derek's family received. However, she assured him that in the 23 years since they had moved to 657 Boulevard, they had never heard of or received anything from someone calling themselves The Watcher. That afternoon, both families went to the Westfield Police Department, where the detectives advised them not to tell anyone about the letters, including their neighbors, as any of them could be the culprit. 2 weeks after receiving the first letter, the Broaddus family received another letter from the Watcher. This second letter contained detailed information about the children in the family, including their birth order, names, and nicknames. The content continued with more strange language. After receiving this letter, Derek and Maria immediately took their children away from the house and temporarily canceled their plan to move in. A few weeks later, a third letter arrived from the Watcher, containing only a few lines. After a period of investigation, the Westfield police unfortunately did not achieve any results, as the Watcher was very careful and did not leave any traces. This prolonged period of waiting and living in fear had significant psychological effects on the Broaddus family. Derek stated that his life was severely affected by depression, while Maria was also confirmed to have suffered psychological trauma. 6 months after receiving the letters, the Broaddus family decided to sell the house. But this plan also became unfeasible due to the rumors surrounding 657 Boulevard, making it so that no one wanted to buy it. After some time, the matter began to settle down, and in 2016, 2 years after the last letter, the Broaddus family finally found someone willing to rent the house. But just a few days after the new family moved in, a fourth letter was sent to 657 Boulevard with a threatening message. Although the letter caused some concern for the new family, they still agreed to move in when the Broaddus family installed surveillance cameras around the house. Since then, the letters from the Watcher have not appeared again. So who is the Watcher? What was the reason for sending these strange, threatening letters to the Broaddus family for such a long time? The first suspect the police focused on was the Broaddus family's new neighbor, Michael Langford. The Langford family had moved next door in the 1960s, coinciding with the time the Watcher mentioned in the first letter. My father watched it in the 1960s. Additionally, according to accounts, Michael was a man with schizophrenia who often acted strangely. He spent much time wandering around the neighborhood, peeking into the windows of some nearby homes, causing concern among many neighbors. However, when the police consulted people in the area who had known the Langford family for a long time, no one believed Michael could have written the letter with such complex language. Sometime later, the letter sent to the Broaddus family was analyzed, and it was confirmed that the DNA left on the letter belonged to a woman. For this reason, Michael's sister, Abby Langford, became a suspect. With a job as a real estate agent, the police speculated that Abby's motive could have been jealousy for missing the chance to sell the multi-million-dollar house next door. However, after using DNA obtained from a water bottle Abby used at work, it was found that the DNA samples did not match. Without evidence to prove that the Langford family was behind the letters, the police eventually removed them from the suspect list. As the investigation stalled, rumors began to spread that the entire incident was actually orchestrated by the Broaddus family. Many people believed that the story of the Watcher was created by Derek and Maria themselves to pressure the previous owners into selling the house to them at a lower price than its real value. Furthermore, 657 Boulevard had had 3 previous owners, and when asked about the matter, the former owners insisted that they had never heard of anything called the Watcher. Thus, it seemed this character only appeared when the Broaddus family moved in. Additionally, the story had become very famous due to its mysterious details and unresolved questions. This led many television channels to contact the Broaddus family to negotiate contracts to tell the story of the incident. And an exclusive contract with the media could bring a significant sum of money to their family. However, creating the Watcher to make the whole family, especially their children, live in constant fear made this theory less credible. Moreover, another family living in the same neighborhood received a letter from the Watcher shortly after the Broaddus family received their first letter. So if Derek and Maria truly wanted to create an imaginary character to secure the exclusive rights to this mysterious story and sell it to television stations, why would they go to the trouble of sending a similar letter to another family? Clearly, doing so would reduce their chances of exclusivity. The story of the Watcher began in 2014, and until recently, the Broaddus family sold the house to an anonymous buyer at a price nearly $500,000 lower than the original. However, since this incident happened not long ago, who knows if the Watcher will reappear in the future, and the questions about the reasons for the letters and the person's identity will finally be answered.